Hey friend, in this video, I'm gonna show you my creative process from idea to finished painting. So I have it kind of boiled down into a 3-step process because everybody loves a 3-stepper. And starting with, and everybody's, I think, whether you're a musician, a photographer, painter, weaver, I don't know. I think we all in general kind of follow these 3 steps without knowing, but I think it's more so about being more mindful and intentional with that process that really helps you as an artist get into the flow state and have a process that's more fulfilling. And I've been learning this a whole lot about my process just within the last year. So I've had this business and I've been a professional artist for almost 10 years now, a long time. And over the last year, I've really started to kind of pull apart my process and be more intentional about it so that I don't feel burnout or creatively stuck so often, because that will happen. And so I've been doing a lot of journaling and thinking about this, and here is what has come to mind. And I really do think it's going to help you as an artist or creative in general, whatever type of creative you are. So first step of my 3-step process is the inspiration phase or step. I guess we'll stick with step. Inspiration step. So this will depend on, I'll have different avenues of inspiration depending on what it is I'm painting for. So I obviously record YouTube videos where I'm teaching. I have watercolor books that I'm writing step-by-step watercolor subjects. Like right now, I'm currently writing my 3rd everyday watercolor book on oceans. So I'm painting whales and tropical fish and landscapes, ocean landscapes. And then I also am a surface pattern designer. I license my patterns to manufacturers and get my work in retail stores. So it really depends on the project. But overall, if I'm doing something, let's take licensing, for example, because that's where I feel my most creative work because I don't have to teach and basically interrupt my process. My inspiration phase will usually look something like, if I'm feeling really stuck, especially, I know I have to get outside. I have to get outside and I have to go for a walk. All of us, and I even did a video on this where I said, we got to stop the scroll. But so many of us get caught in the trap of hopping on Pinterest or hopping on Instagram and looking for something that will inspire us or looking for another painting that we can basically replicate. And that is a huge doing a huge disservice to your creative flow because you're just making yourself into somebody who can copy really well or somebody who can look at something and paint, which isn't totally bad. It's obviously good to replicate things, develop muscle memory, obviously crediting the original artist if you're literally copying, and all of that. It helps you develop muscle memory. It's what guitarists and musicians do when they're learning how to play guitar. They're literally playing Stairway to Heaven or whatever, the random song, over and over again to learn it. So what I do, if I'm feeling really creatively stuck or uninspired, I make sure to go outside. I go for a walk. There's a hiking trail close by here that has some really lovely nature involved in the trail. And then even just in our neighborhood and seeing like the cactus in people's yards or roses or whatever, taking photos. Inspiration or nature walk photos and videos is super helpful for me as reference photos because I love to have my own reference photos and videos as much as I possibly can so that I don't have to go on Pinterest or Instagram to find it. Obviously, there's going to be things like I can't go out and go swimming in the deep ocean to find a reference photo on my own iPhone of a humpback whale. So I'm going to find that on the internet. But for things that maybe I'm developing a licensing pattern collection that's very floral, there's tons of flowers around where we live in Southern California. Color palettes are a huge inspiration for me. So I love just walking around and looking at design and architecture. And because I can't just hop a plane and go to Cuba or some foreign land and look at the beautiful color palettes in their landscapes and their architecture, I'll hop on Pinterest for that. And I even have some specific boards saved for color palettes that I have on my Pinterest that will link in this video, because color really does inform a lot of my patterns for licensing, but making sure that I stay as creatively inspired as possible from a source that's not grabbed from somewhere else. So grabbing it from somebody else's Instagram account who is in a similar genre to me, like another watercolorist, another pattern designer. So making sure to go out and explore other mediums, other genres, and using that as inspiration. And that will inform my next step, which is the percolation. Just love that word, the percolation step. So this is when, before I even start painting, I'm setting the mood. So that is when I'm getting things to simmer. I've got my references, I've got my nature walk, I feel inspired. I'm ready to start sketching something. So I'll go from a reference photo and bust out my pretty little journal. This, even just looking at this keeps me inspired. So again, grab something that inspires you from all angles, not just, you know, okay, I've got a photo that I am really inspired by, or that nature walk, and then now we're looking at like some gross paper. That is uninspiring. This really inspires me. But I set the mood. I clean my studio, I clean my desk, I get fresh water, I put on my favorite painting playlist on Spotify. We'll link to it because it's good. And maybe I'll light a candle or Palo Santo the air to really just get in the mood. I know it might sound like unnecessary steps in the percolation process, but it really is a mindfulness. It really is, you want to get into that creative flow state as easily as possible. And a lot of people have a lot of mind chatter going on. They have a lot of like just stuff going on in their mind. So you want to set the mood. And what I like to do too, if you're really, really feeling stuck, this helps me a lot, is do some journaling where I'm just an observer of the words that I'm writing down. I'm not telling myself what to write down. I'm not really being as conscious as you normally would when you're journaling. You're just kind of just watching the words come out and seeing as an observer what's happening, or doing some painting observation exercises. Similar to the exercises that we did in the Art Over Anxiety tutorial that we posted a few weeks ago, where this is just helping me kind of simmer on what I need to do. So if I'm painting a licensing pattern and I just went outside and I went for a walk, took some photos of some flowers, or I just looked at everything and got inspired by color palettes, then I'm letting things simmer and I'm getting ready. I'm getting my mind really ready and present to just see where the brush takes me. All right, and then my third step is to actually create something. So if I'm painting a full floral composition, let's say, I like to, if there's a lot of flowers going on, or if I know there's gonna be kind of specific colors like a muted blush or some colors that I don't already have in my dishes, in my palette, that I need to mix up, I'll mix it up before I start painting so that I have it on hand so I can always go back to it. And I like to mix up a good puddle of it in an empty well or empty dish so before I start painting, because then I can just work a lot quicker. And then sometimes I sketch beforehand, sometimes I don't. And if I do sketch beforehand, I always make sure it's done super lightly so it doesn't show through my watercolor, because watercolor is transparent. And we'll link to the pencils I like to use if you're unfamiliar. But for loose floral pieces, I don't really sketch before. If I do have a specific composition in mind for a floral piece, I'll maybe sketch it in this journal beforehand so I can have that muscle memory and also a little bit of a reference if it's not, you know, in a specific photo, but I'm using a photo for color palette inspiration and I just want composition inspiration, then I'll sketch it beforehand here and then do it loosely on my paper with paint. So for example, we just did a sunflower tutorial where I showed you in the tutorial my sketching process and then obviously painting it. So when I am doing something like this, I'm usually doing it on my journal first, or if it's a realistic painting like the sunflower was, then I'll do it on my watercolor paper, where I'm starting from basic shapes and getting the angle right. Sometimes the first sketch isn't the right sketch, and so I'll have to start over and erase it and keep tweaking it until I get it right, and just sketching really lightly until I get the right contour and shape of the sunflower. But for this particular painting, I didn't mix any colors beforehand. If you watched it, I mixed up a few different greens for the stems and leaves of the two different flowers, all just as I was painting, going straight on the dish. But again, if it's like a really random color or something that I know I'm gonna need a lot of, then I will mix it beforehand in one of my empty dishes. For this particular sunflower, I had the shape in mind. So like, I know it's a circular shaped flower, and a circular shaped flower flipped on its side is a cone. I know that because I've studied flower shapes for a lot of my life. I wrote a book on watercolor flowers, and so I had to get really intricate and detailed with understanding basic shapes of flowers. And so if you're not comfortable with that, then obviously following a tutorial or looking at a reference photo of a sunflower is probably going to help it come out easier than just imagining one in your head and imagining those basic shapes and then plugging in the contour and the petals from there. So having a reference photo, there's nothing wrong with that. This is just my process. And I'm very, very comfortable with flowers. But if it was like a toucan or a random animal that I never painted before and I needed help with pulling out the basic shapes before I sketched, then I would definitely pull up a reference photo so that I'm making sure to find the basic shapes that I can and put them on my paper and then add the contour, all while I'm referencing a photo of a toucan or a photo of a humpback whale, whatever. So I know that process is kind of all over the place, from inspiration to percolation and creation, but those are my overall steps. Each job or each painting is going to be slightly different, and keep that in mind. This is my process, and while it's really comfortable for me and it feels pretty natural for me and it helps me stay inspired, it might not work for you. You might have a more precise process. Maybe you like to mix your colors beforehand every single time, or you like to sketch beforehand every single time, or maybe you never sketch at all. I don't know. So make sure you're finding your process, but this is what really helps me and helps me stay inspired no matter what it is I'm painting. I hope that was helpful and insightful for you to see how a professional artist and service pattern designer like myself does the process of all the things. Comment below with what your creative process is. I would love to maybe get some ideas or share those ideas with other people reading the comments. So comment below with whatever it is your creative process is, or if you have something that you think is really unique, a unique part of your creative process, I would love to read about it. So hit me up in the comments below. On that note, I would like to say and make sure you all know, I read every single comment. I used to be able to respond to all the comments, but it's now just getting a little bit like there's so many comments. So I can't really keep up, but I do read the majority of the comments, probably all of the comments. I might miss a couple here and there. And I am so grateful for the time that you spend commenting and everything. You guys are so sweet. Honestly, I think we have the best subscribers, the best community, the best viewers, commenters on here, because you're so encouraging and just so sweet, and it's just a wonderful community. So thank you so much for every comment, every like, every subscribe. It means the world to John and I putting these videos together for this channel, and I hope you love it, and I'll see you in the next video.